Hey guys, Matt Easton here, Schola Gladiatoria. So first up, I have to say massive thanks to Skallagrim for responding to my video talking about weapon bans, which I did last week, I think. And he actually responded a few days ago, but I've literally only just noticed that he did a response video to me. So thanks, Skal, for your video. It's given me some more thoughts and given me reason to make this video. I always appreciate other YouTubers making response videos to mine, apart from anything, because it gives me a different perspective. Sometimes they make constructive criticisms, which is absolutely fine, and it gives me a different angle and a different view on things. Now, first up, a little bit of context. So when we're talking about weapon bans, obviously the context of where you live is hugely relevant, and also what's normal. Now, I made a big thing in my previous video talking about I'm a normal guy, you know, blah, blah, blah. I used to work for the government. I've got 2 children and, you know, I'm married, blah, blah, blah. I'm a typical normal guy in some sense. But then there is, as Skal points out, there's the question of, well, what is normal indeed? And not only is normal a very relative thing, subjective thing, but also it's different in different places. So as most viewers of this channel probably know, in the UK we have far more restrictive firearms laws, for example, than most other countries, certainly more than, say, the USA. So what's normal in regards to firearms ownership in the UK is completely different to what's normal in the USA. So a lot of this is obviously context-based, and you have to, even though the principles are the same and the underlying foundations are the same of what I'm saying, you have to take it in different ways. Now, for example, we're much more accustomed to regulation of things in the UK, and for the most part, we can manage with regulations. Where my massive bugbear comes in is with bans, and that was the original topic of the video, was about outright bans on things and how essentially it's incredibly sort of totalitarian, basically, banning. And if there is an evidence-based reason to control a thing, maybe it's a type of drug, maybe it's a type of firearm, maybe it's bomb-making equipment, I don't know, anything, then by all means, have some form of sensible regulation. In my view, governments, and bearing in mind I worked for the government for 17 years of my life, governments are there to serve us. The police are there to serve us. The military are there to serve us. We are the taxpayer. We pay their wages. Okay, if we all withheld our tax, for a start, we'd probably find suddenly a police state. But if we all withheld our tax, they wouldn't get paid. Okay, they are paid for by the taxpayer. They are public servants. I was a public servant. I was a civil servant. And their job, yes, absolutely, is to make sure we're living in a safe place and that our votes are represented. So if we vote for a certain political party and that political party has said that they're going to invest more in health services, then absolutely that's what we should see. Okay, it's supposed to be a democracy. So absolutely, our government's job is to make sure that we're relatively safe and we get more or less what we vote for. Absolutely. And if that means regulation, then so be it. If, like me, you maybe get to a point one day where you think, you know, I don't agree with the majority of the population of this country anymore, what they want in terms of regulations, what they want in terms of laws and bans, then you know what, you emigrate. And that's certainly something which I've spent a lot of the last decade thinking about. Emigration isn't quite as simple as that, of course, because you might have a job, a career that's embedded, entrenched in a certain place. You might have family, people you've got to take care of and look after. So you can't necessarily leave just because you want to. And someone like me, having the interests that I have in, you know, I shoot, I collect swords, I sell swords, I run fencing clubs, stuff like this. Living in the UK, it is not an easy country to live in and do those things. But that aside, there are some interesting points that came out of Skal's video, or rather that I thought about when watching Skal's video. Now, one of those is about this ban versus regulation. Now, I purposefully said in the comments underneath my previous video that I wasn't going to get into the topic of regulation, because regulation is entirely different in different countries. The way that we regulate certain types of firearm in this country are obviously completely different to the ways that those firearms are regulated in other countries. Each country has its own laws and traditions and everything else. We have what we have in the UK. You know, if I take, for example, bolt action rifles, I shoot a 303 SMLE. Do I have any particular problems with the way that firearms legislation works for bolt-action rifles in this country? Not really, no. I don't mind that they're regulated. It's not that difficult to get a firearms certificate, and it means that we've got a relative degree of safety and stuff like that. And I can still own it. I still keep it at home in a gun cabinet. I can still shoot it whenever I want. I can still buy the ammunition whenever I want. So no great skin off my nose, to be honest. But bans are where I have a real problem. Bear in mind, we have a relatively decent Olympic pistol shooting team, and they can't practice in Great Britain. So the Great Britain Olympic pistol shooting team can't practice in Great Britain except for with air pistols. They have to go to Northern Ireland, who have different laws on this. You can still have handguns in Northern Ireland, or Jersey, because again, Jersey has their own laws, despite the fact that this is sort of part of comes under the UK government to some extent. So the simple fact is that it's a stupid situation. We've got an Olympic sports team that can't practice the thing that they use in the Olympics certainly within England, Scotland and Wales, because that thing's been a blanket ban. Now surely, even if no one else was able to own that thing, surely the Olympic pistol team should be able to practice in England. It's absolutely freaking crazy. It's so stupid. And it's not protecting anyone, because everyone knows that banning something doesn't remove it from circulation. Okay, so this is the second part of what I want to say, and probably the most important part. In my view, one of the problems that banning doesn't work is it doesn't remove it from the hands of the people who are the biggest danger, okay? And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about guns, whether we're talking about knives, samurai swords, or whether we're talking about drugs of any level. Could just be marijuana, could be heroin, okay? It doesn't remove those things. Believe it or not, you know, we've had, decades and decades of certain types of drugs being banned in the UK. Does it mean that those drugs are not accessible and that people are not getting their hands on them? Hell no! They can even get them in prison, okay? So, of course, thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the UK smoke marijuana because they can get hold of it, okay? Because there's a demand for it. So, surely an outright ban on it, what's that achieving? My belief is that it would be better to regulate it and to have some kind of idea of maybe the health services that are required to manage the people who are going to use that drug anyway, regulate it, and you can give them the health services they require or whatever else. And hell, the government can make some tax money out of it, which they're usually well up for, certainly in this country. And it's the same for other things as well. Samurai swords. Now, although we have certain exemptions or defences for buying samurai swords in the UK, so I can own them because I have martial arts insurance, I can own the antique, or anybody can own antique ones. I can also own them because I'm making films, people making films. So there's various defences that I can buy a katana or a tachi under, okay, so I can buy them. But generally speaking, they brought in this ban and then added in little exceptions or exemptions rather, or actually legally in this country they're called defences, okay, they're not pure exemptions. Now that's just crazy because the police have got to administrate this, Border Force, HMRC, the Home Office have to administrate this thing. But people can still get access to that thing, even if a criminal wanted to get one without observing all of the defences and exemptions and everything else. How hard do you think it would be? Not hard at all, okay? Criminals are happily stabbing each other with kitchen knives, screwdrivers, garden implements, all these kind of things. They can get access to sharp and pointy objects. Banning any type of sharp and pointy object is not going to make anybody safer because people are getting stabbed with kitchen knives and screwdrivers, which are always going to be present. So, to sum up, thanks to Skal for posting his response video, because it's made me post another video, not really a response to you, but thanks because it motivated me to make another video on this topic and clarify that banning and regulation are two separate things. I don't have any ethical problem with regulating things, certain things, not everything of course, but banning, and you know, a lot of these bans are not even based on statistics or reality. How many people die each year from horse riding, and or dog attacks, and how many people die each year from samurai sword attacks? Why are samurai swords banned, or shurikens, ninja throwing stars? Why are they banned but vastly greater number of people die riding horses or playing rugby than have ever died. As far as I'm aware, not one single person in the UK has ever died from a ninja throwing star, or Death Star as they call it in UK law, or otherwise known as a shuriken. Okay, so it's not evidence-based. So regulation, bans, both have to be evidence-based in my opinion, and there's a big difference between banning something outright and regulating it. And if you've got some evidence-based reason to control something, bring in regulation for that thing so that people who have a legitimate, legal, peaceful, creative, artistic and spiritual right to use that thing can actually use that thing. The Olympic pistol team should be able to shoot pistols in the UK and not have to travel to freaking Northern Ireland or Jersey just to practice their Olympic sport. Come on guys, you've got to try harder. We pay your salaries. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt Easton.